What's going on, fam? Back again. See, here's the thing. Um, Mental health. We've talked about it before, but today we're going to talk about mental health as it relates to Black women and the challenges that they face. So we've got a special guest. She's back with us, Ashley Smith. She's a licensed therapist out of Texas, and she is here to give us, or be, excuse me, our subject matter expert. Because, of course, me, Brandon, and Carl, we're not women; we're Black men. So
True.
we're gonna talk to Ashley today. Ashley, thank you very much for being here with us. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for having me again. I really appreciate it.
Now, as we move forward, Ashley, we're talking about, the challenges that Black women face, in regards to mental health. Can you tell us historically, in your professional opinion, has it gotten better? Has it gotten worse? Or more specifically, what are, some of the main challenges that you see in your profession, in terms of mental health and as it relates to Black women?
So I think that, mental health when it comes to Black women, I think a lot of Black women are coming forward to talk about what is plaguing them, what's going on, what they're struggling with. So I think in those terms, it has gotten a lot better. However, I think we still have a ways to go. So as far as identifying, acknowledging, and accepting, that's one of the biggest things. Um, a lot of Black women, so most of my clientele are African American women, women of color, minority women, but mostly women of color, Black women. And what I see is, like, you probably have everyone has probably heard this before, kind of the strong Black woman. And that is a real thing. That is a real thing. Like, that stereotype of Black women have to be strong. We have to be strong. We have to endure. We have to do these things. And so what I see, what happens, like, when it comes to therapy, when it comes to counseling, we struggle with, myself included, we struggle with accepting that, you know, we struggle with accepting the struggle. We struggle with accepting that we are struggling with anxiety. We're struggling with depression. I see a lot of trauma related issues. I see a lot of PTSD, trauma, childhood trauma from, the crack epidemic. That's what I see a lot. Parents, substance abuse, domestic violence, domestic abuse. I see that a lot. And so they take that and they struggle with that in their childhood, and they take that and they, struggle with it in their adulthood. And so it changes them. It changes their makeup. It changes how they react. It changes how they love. It changes their love languages. It changes how they communicate. It changes how they look at the world. And so, also, a lot of times, Black women, we struggle with anxiety, anxiety from day to day, like career wise. A lot of professionals, in the workplace, a lot of Black women struggle with their career. If I'm going to have a career, but can I also, have the family part too, struggling with, do I settle? Do I settle in my career, or do I settle with them and within my love life and those things? So I see a lot of anxiety with, being the strong Black woman, being in their career, dealing honestly with racism and sexism and discrimination. And I know you probably have heard this before. You have to work twice as hard. And doing therapy, I see that often with Black women. They often feel like they have to work twice as hard in their careers, especially corporate America, but not just corporate America, just basics, but having to work twice as hard to get to where they want to be. Dealing with a lot of sexism from coworkers, people feeling like they're incompetent, those types of things, like having to bite their tongue. I see a lot of depression, and with the depression, I see that happening twofold, because a lot of times when I come to therapy, there are things that are coming back up from their childhood that they struggle with, that they've suppressed, that they've pushed down. And so, as an adult, these things that you've suppressed down, you've pushed down, they start coming back up. They start coming back up. And then you're also dealing with the things that are happening in the world. You're dealing with being a mother, or you're dealing with being a wife, or being the breadwinner, or trying to find love. dealing with issues with the father of their children and those things. So those are like the type of things that I see a lot of Black women deal with, on regular basis: career, sexism, discrimination, racism, depression, anxiety, trauma related issues, childhood trauma, domestic abuse or violence, substance abuse, kind of seeing those things. Those are the type of things I see that they struggle with often.
Question, because you mentioned something that is personal to me. The whole moniker behind being a strong Black woman. Historically, we looked at that as, in my opinion, a positive thing, a good thing. I came from a household where I grew up with quote unquote strong Black women, from my mom to all of my sisters. So, you know, from a historical perspective, how far back can we go to kind of get to the genesis or the beginning of that term strong Black woman? Because the first thing I think about is slavery,
Mhm.
and how, that came about because, Black women were subjected to seeing, their husbands being, dehumanized, and they themselves being used as objects, sexual objects, things of that nature. So how far back can we go when we talk about being a strong Black woman? And it sounds to me now like, is it still considered to be a positive thing, or has it, evolved into something that's negative because we're talking about mental health?
Yeah. From a historical standpoint, you maybe can take it all the way back to Africa. We may not have, like, being an African American, unless we've really, really studied it, we may not have the actual history on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes all the way back to Africa, being a strong Black woman, of what they did and how they had to power through those things there, and kind of just how they were as a nation, how they, before everything, happened with slavery and everything. But probably kind of going back there. But I do agree with you, Eugene. Um, Probably slavery, everything that Black women had to endure, and you're right, seeing, their husbands, but not just their husbands, not just their husbands, but having their children taken away, seeing, what was happening to their children, what was happening to their husbands, and also what's happening to them, and trying to find some strength and some hope to get through this, hoping that, okay, this is going to be over soon. That's what I can just imagine anyway. Like, maybe one day we're going to get through this, having to be strong. And so like, you have to look at, like, and from a historical standpoint, like, the different things that happen. You have slavery, have, segregation, you have the civil rights movement, you have all these things. And Black people have had to endure this, but Black women have had to endure this, and they've had to, be the support, get through it, find a way. I think in today's time, unfortunately, like, Black women have to be independent. We have to be very independent in the household. We have to be the ones that, take care of everything. And it's unfortunate because, a lot of times, Black men aren't in the homes. And so what Black women have to do is they have to be the mother and the father. This is not every home, and I'm not saying this is every home, but it's unfortunate that these are a lot of homes where the Black women have to be, okay, I'm the mother, I'm the father, I'm the friend, I'm all of these things, and you have to just endure, and you just find a way. But unfortunately, when you do this, you just suppress a lot. You suppress a lot of what's going on around you, because it's like, I can't sit down and cry. I can't sit down and think about it. I can't sit down and cry about it, or just be upset about it, because I have to continue to endure, and I have to continue to make way for my kids and those people around me. I do think the term strong Black woman is a positive term, but I think now it can be a negative. Like, when Black women are trying to find someone to date and start a family with, oh, well, you're too independent, or you don't allow me to lead, or you don't allow me to do these things. And it's because maybe because she's had to do it for so long, she doesn't know how. And it's very hard because she's had to depend on herself for so long. And that's something else when Black women comes to therapy, that's something that they actually talk about a lot, like allowing a man to lead, or, not knowing how, or just being very independent, or feeling like I can do it on my own because I've had to do it on my own and I don't trust anybody else to help me. And I think that that's a big part. Like, I don't trust anyone else to do it because I've been doing it for so long.
So in that respect, and I'm glad you brought that up, what I
Mhm.
think about is, you know, um, in essence, some Black women end up settling because, they've been told that they're too independent, they're too strong-willed, so, they end up settling for, these busters that, ain't got jobs or, got
Uh-oh.
a sub 700 credit score, things like that, so I have to imagine that, that's added pressure too, so, another question that I have for you though is the stigma that has been in our community for so long about us not seeking out mental health assistance, things of that nature. Has that gotten better when it comes to Black women?
I think so. I think so. I think women are really, really, moving forward with that. Black women, people in general, but I think Black women are really, really moving, like taking that and saying, no, it's not okay for me to feel like this and not doing anything about it. Like I said, majority of my clientele is are Black women, and a lot of them when they call, they say, hey, I want a Black therapist. I just need someone to talk to. And just knowing that help is there, knowing like a lot of times they want someone who looks like them, who sounds like them, because a lot of times, I'm a Black therapist, but I'm a Black woman, so a lot of times I've been through or have experienced a lot of what you're experiencing, and so you feel that connection. But no, I do think a lot of them are, taking the time to come to therapy now. Actually, I think from a statistical standpoint, I think more Black women are attending therapy than Black males, if I'm not mistaken. So I do think that that has increased over the last couple of years.
That's what I was gonna ask because, I know for me, I'm in therapy. My therapist is a white Italian man. And, while he's not Black, I can still, talk to him and relate to him. So I find it interesting that, a lot of Black people want to have, Black therapists. And I haven't talked to, my male friends that feel that way, but I can understand how a Black female would feel like, I want to have, a Black female therapist. Now, the problem I see with that is that there are not a lot of Black female therapists out there. So I do want to thank you, for having the courage to be in that field and to put yourself out there to be able to help people. So, what do we do with that? Where somebody can't find a Black female therapist or a Black therapist, do they just sit at home and not seek therapy? How do we handle that?
So I think that is more of, for my field, we have to become more multicultural. We have to become more competent multiculturally, more multiculturally competent when it comes to that. And so, like, that's where more training comes for Black therapists, but for white therapists, for Native American therapists, for South Asian therapists, it doesn't matter. It's about the training and the skills to understand, like, regardless of my color as a therapist, regardless of my color, I am, one, going to put all of my biases and preconceived notions outside of the window, and I'm going to try to help you the best I can, and I'm going to be well educated on, the history of the African American individual, on what their experiences look like. I'm going to be more educated, and we have to advocate in my field anyway. We have to advocate for that to show in anybody that, hey, regardless of the color, I trust my therapist. So Eugene, you said you go to an Italian therapist. It's something that your therapist has done or is doing that makes you feel safe there, that makes you feel a connection because you're continuing to go. So it's something that he's doing, or she, I think he said he, that he's doing that's making you feel safe, that's making you feel connected, where you have built rapport and you guys, have locked in because it's a therapeutic relationship. So I think more on our part, we have to do a better job of making sure, regardless if the therapist is white or black or whatnot, that they feel safe, that they feel like, hey, this person is going to protect me emotionally and I can open up and they are going to be understanding of my experiences and not make me feel like these experiences don't exist or feel like I'm being belittled or even just not listened to. So I think that's more on our part.
I have a question, and I think that it's you kind of touched on it earlier about how the moniker of strong black woman and everything that women have to, you know, go through, and then it being used as negative terms, particularly in like dating. Um,
Mhm.
what as men, and I've heard this too because I have daughters, and they're talking about the soft girl era now, where there's a whole movement to, you know, femininity and not so much the whole, I'm assertive, strong black go getter and all that kind of stuff, but more so treat me like a lady and I know that's a balance. But if I'm speaking, not even necessarily dating, but in a male female relationship in general, what things should men be saying? What questions should we be asking? And are there certain things, trigger words or phrases that we should not use um, when talking about, like, okay, for example, um, a woman who has her own career and she's, independent and doing her thing, and it's like, um, and I would never say this, but you know,
Nice disclaimer.
yeah,
Like,
that's
there
your
you go.
disclaimer. But like, you want to be a man. It's like you want to be a man, and I know that can be triggering, particularly if a woman is like, I'm doing this because I have to. It's not that I want to be a man, but I'm doing it because I have to. But I mean, other things that I know there could be certain microaggressions and certain phrases that we should avoid. But I don't know if you can elaborate on that, or I'm just trying to help some fellas out so they don't, step in a minefield unknowingly. So
Yeah. Well, I guess what I see, like, I guess you're talking about like an independent woman or a strong black woman who feels
yes.
like she's had to do everything. Um, so that's the thing. She feels like she's had to do everything alone by herself. So she needs to be able to trust that you will take care of her. Now, I try to make up my clients understand that they may not do everything just the way that you do it,
Mm.
but if they do it, that's the difference. They're not gonna. It could be small things like cleaning the house or how you pay the bills. Are they going to do it? Now they're chronically late, then something you need to talk about with the bills. But if like cleaning the house, it could be something as simple as cleaning the house. Like they may not clean the house exactly how you clean it. Like I clean the bathrooms in my house because I get down and dirty, and I'm like, no, babe, I'll do it because I know he's not going to do it the way that I want. But there are other things that he does better, so it's like tit for tat.
Like
But
what? We gon' no, hold on. You go get back. What does your husband do that's better than what you do? Because we team husband over here.
Yeah.
well, he cooks. He cooks. He's a cooker. I don't cook. He cooks.
You don't cook?
He's a better cooker.
He's the chef.
I can cook. See, Eugene, I don't do this on air.
Next question. So, Ashley, I'm gonna bail you out on this one. So,
Thank you.
piggybacking off of Carl, not only from just the household relationship aspect, but also from a mental aspect, because I think
Mhm.
could be wrong about this, but I feel like in our community we definitely have some disparity between our men and our women, and we're not as united maybe as other cultures, and maybe some are worse than us, but I definitely focus on us here, right? So from the mental well-being aspect of just dealing with whether it's anxiety, some PTSD from trauma, like Carl was asking, as your counterparts as black men, what can we do? I know we can't fix it, but just to make life a little
Yeah.
bit better, what can we do to help out there?
I think it's simple. It's just simply being there, being present, letting them know that, hey, I'm here to help you. Because sometimes it's just your presence being there with them to let them know, like, hey, you're not alone. I'm going to help you. How asking them what they need. How can I support you? What do you need from me in this moment? Sometimes it can just simply be, I need you to hold me. I need you to hug me. I need help with, calling a doctor or whatever it may be. Um, I know a lot of times in the Black community, sometimes we don't take mental health as serious. And that's one of the biggest things, is to start taking mental health serious. So if someone says, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling down, or whatever it may be, like, it's not, oh, well, you'll be good, you got this, you strong. We've heard that so much
Pray
in our
about it.
lives.
Uh-oh.
We got to pray about
We
it.
gotta
Pray
stop
about,
Pray
doing
about it.
yeah,
that.
pray about. And so here's the thing, like, religion, your spirituality, religion, it's like, that's great. That is a support system for you. That is a great way to, try to help with mental health, but it's not the only way. And so if you are doing that and someone just said, oh, well, let's just go to church, let's just do that, that may not be the only thing that they need. And if they suggest mental health, like, hey, I think I'm gonna go see a therapist, don't belittle them or make them feel like they're crazy, because that's the last thing that they want to feel like. Like, well, a man said it's crazy, it don't sound good, so I'm not gonna go do it. Versus, like, let me help you. Like, you want to go to therapy? Cool. You want me to go with you? You want me to sit outside of the office with you and help you, or just to be there? Like, those types of things. Like, encourage them, let them know, like, hey, it's okay, you're not the only one. I've been a therapist for about 14, 15 years, and I think that everyone has had or is having some type of mental health issues or concerns. Like, everyone, no matter what, you've had something. So even kind of disclosing that, like, you know what, I struggled with this, or I struggle with that. Like, I myself struggle with mental health when my mom passed, and when my grandmother passed, and when I lost a child. And so, like, my husband, he's very supportive of that. Like, hey, let's go get some help in these things, and vice versa. So just like being able to kind of, look at it from a different perspective too, and being able to open yourself up too. I think as a man, being able to open yourself up and not be closed off, like being vulnerable in those moments. I think that's very important, because if you're vulnerable, they're going to feel safe.
Back to
Ooh,
something,
yeah.
Ashley, that you mentioned, when you talk about support. One of the things that I have faced, and I don't know if Brandon and Carl can say the same thing, but in relationships, when you're talking about being there for a person, as men, we often get chastised because we feel like we're supposed to read the minds of
Mm.
our significant other. And I always feel like I don't necessarily know what's going on unless you tell me. So, as men, we kind of feel like, we're on the outside looking in because we have our own challenges that we're faced with. So I don't think sometimes that we can be expected to, quote unquote, read your mind. And then if we ask, well, tell me, then sometimes we're met with, well, why do I have to tell you? You should know. So, I mean, how do we combat that? Because I think it's very important. And then even though it comes down to communication, again, as a man, sometimes we feel like we damned if we do, we damned if we don't.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a man, so I don't know how that I don't know how that feels, but I think it's something I just said. It's vulnerability, but I think it's vulnerability on both sides, and it's the communication part. Like, being able, like, understanding, like, when we talk about mental health, it's not easy. It's not easy to say that I'm struggling with depression. I'm struggling with getting out the bed. I'm struggling with showering. It's not easy to say I am anxious every day when I wake up, especially as a Black woman, because we see this as a flaw. I don't even think it's just a Black woman. I just think it's people in general. We see it as a flaw. Like, it's something wrong with me. And so I think once you're able to admit that and to be honest about it and to be vulnerable, then you can open up and be honest. And, like, when you ask, so for instance, what you're saying, Eugene, when you ask, and if you ask and say, hey, what do you need from me, or what's going on, she can be honest and say, you know what, I've been struggling with this lately, and this is what's happening, and this is how I'm feeling. But I think it's also a level of trust. Do I trust you? I love you. I love you, but do I trust you with this vulnerable information about myself?
It's a good one.
Yeah, okay.
That-
Now, I got something here, and I'm 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 gonna ask Brandon and Carl, but Ashley, I want to ask you as well. One of the in addition to the things that you named in terms of the challenges that Black women face from a mental health standpoint, I want to throw something out here, fellas.
What you got?
Daddy issues
For men or for women?
for women. So I'm gonna read definition that I found in Psychology
We gotta
Today,
sit up, huh,
Yeah,
Carl?
and Ashley, please correct me if I'm wrong, but this is a definition that came directly out of Psychology Today. Daddy issues, defined as a father complex or a set of psychological challenges that can develop from a strained or absent relationship with a father. Carl, I'm gonna start with you. Have you been in a relationship where
Yes.
you've dealt with
Ding, 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 ding. You don't even gotta ask us. Ding, 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 ding.
So,
And it's real. I try to once I find out what's going on, and it always starts out. Like I say, it always starts out. Let me back up. It can start out as, well, my father wasn't around, or he wasn't really present, or we don't have a good relationship. But I'm looking at, because initially when I go into the relationship, I look at a strong Black woman. So my initial perception is, oh, she gonna be all right.
mhm,
She dealing with it,
mhm.
you know. To Ashley's point, I think that as the relationship goes on, there is a lack of trust that is innate right away.
Mhm.
And I don't see that, of course,
Right.
but it first comes up with, where you been?
Mm.
I called you, and what's going on? It's like, I was asleep. You
Mm.
was asleep for real? In the middle of the day? Yeah, it's called a nap. I mean, it's like
You wasn't sleep. You was with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, wait a minute, how does that happen? And then you have to start, realizing, oh, your daddy was over
Mm.
here. He
Connecting
did
the
it. Yeah,
dots.
you start connecting the dots. I think as men, well, I should say as me, not as men, but as me, I kind of start, if I know where the man is, or I've met him or what have you, I try to take people where they are. So I can see, like, okay, I see what kind of man this is. Not to be, judgmental, to say he's a good father, bad father, but I see what he is, and I see where those gaps are in that child's life. For example, I know that there are some men who just cannot be parents. They became parents. They may have tried to do the best they can, but they have their own path. Unfortunately, they've created a child that they should be parenting, and they're not. I can see that from a man's perspective. I'm not that man's daughter, though.
Mm.
And that man's daughter is saying, you're supposed to be my father. Now, I can't be can't be that woman's father. And I guess that's why I was asking the question to Ashley earlier, what can I do? Because in my original, the first time this happened to me, I bailed. I just tell you, I was,
I'm out of here.
yeah, I'm out of here. I'm not even going
Bunch of ran for the hills.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not going to deal with this, because, as you said, Eugene, men have their own set of challenges. So I'm trying to find myself and define my manhood. I can't make up for what your daddy didn't do, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So um, I- it's tough, I think, for black people in general, because of all the things that we've gone through. And we all have our psychological traumas that we come into relationships with, whether they be, romantic relationships or just interpersonal relationships, period. We all have our own set of psychological traumas that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
A strong Black woman, she's supposed to just take it on. Same thing for the strong Black man.
Yep.
Just put your head down and work. And,
Suck it up.
Right, suck it up. Self-medicate, which is what we've been doing as a community. So I think there's got to be some kind of happy medium where we do not only seek therapy for ourselves, but even just kind of, and I don't know if there's such a thing as like communal therapy, where we need to just like be able to be vulnerable as a people and say, well, and I've seen a couple of things like this where it's a group of men and a group of women, and women will say, well, this is what I feel, and men say, this is what I feel. And neither one knew what each other was feeling until they kind of expressed those things. It's just hard to be vulnerable. When you said for a man to be vulnerable, that's why I was like, that is
It's a slippery slope.
hard.
It's a very
Because you don't want to
slippery
be, you don't want to be sitting there and all these emotions come out, and there's women are like, he's a punk. That's just a fear of men have.
It's a very
You know,
There
slippery
you
slope
go.
you
there.
know.
It's a
So
very
Talking
dangerous-
behind your back. B,
Yes,
what
sir.
about yourself? Have you experienced relationship where you've been involved with a young lady and she's had quote unquote daddy issues?
Yes, it's a learning experience, you know. And I can only speak from my experience. It was not the best, but you know, you're young and you try and you don't quit on stuff. My situation was I kind of mirrored the father. So deep down they're looking at you in that
Mhm.
same role, and if unfortunately you internalize dad mistakes through your mistakes.
Mhm.
So you're not only bearing your cross, you're bearing dad's cross, who's no longer in the picture or whatever. So approaching that, I'm a smart guy. I didn't figure out a way around it. You know, I think that's one of the things. And coming to Ashley, when you're dealing with that situation, my opinion is something I learned in therapy myself is you got to sweep your own porch to deal with those said daddy issues, or else it spills over to a relationship and it creates fights, chaos, anxiety, like we're talking about, stress, PTSD, and all these other things because there's a wound or there's an issue with dad, or dad wasn't there, or dad did this, and like we were saying, all that stuff from your childhood carries over to where we are now. So if
Mhm.
you got a daddy wound from 8 years old and you never addressed it, did the counseling or whatever, when you're 35 or something, dating or married, something goes wrong with me, I'm in trouble just like dad was. So
See, and that's for me, I will say this. What I found to be interesting is when I first heard the term daddy issues, I automatically just went to absent father. And as I got into relationships, I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been in relationships with women whose fathers were absent, but I've also been in relationships with women who had that nuclear family, that two-parent household, and dad was there, and
But
they
he
still
wasn't.
had daddy issues. And what I found is that they were so ingrained, and Carl, to your point, you don't answer the phone. Where you at? Well, I was, you said you're gonna call me at 6. It's 6:02. So you have to deal with this. And in one particular instance, I remember a girlfriend that I had. Father was there in the house, daddy issues, but Papa was a Rolling Stone. And when she had the courage to talk to him about the things that he had done and how they affected her, his response was a non-response. So to that point, we have to look at, the history behind it. And, I looked at it because Brandon, I was in a situation too where I took on a father role. And once I realized that, wait a minute,
yeah,
I'm not your father. I'm your boyfriend. And the stuff that your dad didn't do, you expect me to do. I ain't got time to be a teacher.
Oh, I say it all the time. I can't raise an adult. And
You
I'm,
know,
I'm
you
not
can try
trying
and
to.
you will fail.
I'm not
You
even
will
gonna try.
fail.
So, I mean, to that point, Ashley, let us, put it back in your court
Help.
from a professional standpoint.
Say no.
How do you deal with the women that have daddy
Help.
issues?
Well, first of all, I think you all kind of hit it on the head. I think Brandon said therapy. I think you have to, you have to address these things. You have to address it. You have to process it. You have to understand. Um, in a sense, like I think you were saying, Eugene, with the dad was a Rolling Stone, and when she approached him, he
Well, hold on. Let
kind
me
of
let
like
me
was
let
a
me let me say this real
non-response.
quick because you didn't put the right intonation on Rolling Stone. You know what Rolling Stone is, right?
I know what a Rolling
I'm
Stone
just
is.
saying,
She didn't put the
fam. That
emphasis.
that mean Daddy was doing his thing. He was in the house,
I
but
know what
yeah,
I know what a
I'm giving him the
I'm older
layman's
than Brandon.
terms.
What are you talking about here?
We on the same page, right? I think we got it.
Okay, I digress. Go ahead,
Jeez.
Ashley.
Jesus, my family's from Detroit. I'm not a temptation. Sheesh. Uh, but I was even looking at that, like the gaslighting part, right? Like you were Rolling Stone, you're out here doing whatever, and your daughter approaches you about it, and you don't comment or anything. Like that's a form of gaslighting. And if she has had to deal with that type of stuff, she brings that into a relationship. And you do have to approach it. I mean, I think the safest way to approach it is in therapy, but if not, you have to process and understand. And I think the biggest thing that I try to kind of help my clients understand is that your significant other is not your father. No matter how many similarities they have, they are not your father. And you have to be able to separate the two. And sometimes I'll even have them literally separate the two. What is your father? What are his characteristics? What did he do? Your significant other, what are their characteristics? What do they do? What are the similarities, but also what are the differences? That's one of the biggest things is under like literally like dividing, well, not dividing them, but separating them. That's huge. But you have to really process kind of what if your father was absent, or if you have a strained relationship, or you know something. Also knowing that like your father cheated, was a cheater and cheated. you know People don't look at it this way, but when someone, and this could be man or woman, whoever, when a person cheats on the significant other, you're not just cheating on the spouse, you're cheating on the family too. And understanding how that affects that child, and how that, because that causes daddy issues too. Like your daddy could have been a great financial dad, he could have been a great dad, but he was a sucky husband. That affects how you go into relationships also, and how, for women, how you view men. I've had women say like, well, I mean, you can provide for me, but I know all men are going to cheat, and that's just what it is, and I just have to accept that, because that's what her daddy may not have said that, but that's what her daddy taught her by his actions. Those types of things.
Ooh, there we go. One of the
Okay.
things too, I think kind of want to jump into are some of the things that come about through daddy issues. And Ashley, maybe you can speak to detail to some of these things, but some of the things that I found are I'll just go through us a few of them. One of them, the need for approval. If dad didn't give you that approval, then once you get out here and you start dating, you looking for approval from these, excuse my language, bust ass men that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Relationship challenges. You don't trust. You didn't trust your daddy, so you don't trust it. I was in a relationship once where, you know, father cheated. You thought every time you didn't get in touch with me, I was cheating. You can't, as a man, you can't get past that,
Exactly.
Brandon, to your point, one of the things, another challenge, dating older men, because you didn't have daddy there. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for that father figure. Attachment trauma, difficulty trusting others, that fear of abandonment because your dad left, and Ashley, one of the things that I tell people all the time, I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I'm gonna get this, Lord,
At 60?
family,
Whoa. Ashley's a
we
part-time
we about
comedian.
to mute, because I'm about to
Ashley do
no.
comedy on the weekends, y'all.
I'm 38 with a 5-year-old. The one thing that I always say, and I'm gonna put this on my tombstone, so Carl, make sure they put it on there. My goal, my daughter, my goal is to keep my baby off the pole. So whatever I need to do in terms of hugs, kisses, she's spoiled. Carl, you got all girls, so you already know. I don't want her to become an adult and look for this affirmation from men out here because I didn't give it to her. So I think that when you talk about daddy issues, that is a worry, that is a concern for men that have daughters, and you're a real father. So you want to make sure, not necessarily saying you have to overcompensate,
Oh yeah.
but I think at the end of the day, with any child, but as a man having a daughter, especially with a daughter, and Carl, you can attest to this,
Yeah.
spending quality time with your baby, not necessarily, quantity, but quality. If my daughter wants to sit and watch some goofy cartoon show, we'll sit and watch the goofy cartoon show because I'm building into her, because I've already seen, the after effects of what happens when you don't have an involved father. So Ashley, let me ask, when you're dealing with, your clients and they've got these daddy issues, what is, in your opinion, an effective treatment plan to get them to see, you can do this. You don't have to be mired in this negativity with these daddy issues. You can evolve.
Well, actually, before I answer that, I wanted to hit on something you said when, with your daughter and like the type of things like telling her you love her and things. You would be surprised how many women I do therapy with who weren't like their families didn't tell them that they love them, like saying, I love you in the household, how rare it is. Um, I know for my family, we always told each other we loved each other, and it was just something that was natural. But other people I've met just in general, like saying I love you, it was very taboo, and you would see how it affects them. So I just wanted to pinpoint that, like a lot of women, that I've done therapy with, like saying I love you or hearing I love you, how hard it is to say, but how hard it is to receive because they didn't receive that also growing up. Just kind of going off the back of what you said. I just wanted to pinpoint that. Yeah. Now, as far as a treatment plan, I think one of the biggest things is understanding your self worth. Understanding your worth isn't based on anyone else, isn't based on how a man views you, isn't based on his actions, on if he loves you or if he does not love you or how he treats you. If this man is here with you, he's here with you. But if he is leaving you, he's leaving you. But at the end of the day, you know your self worth, you know your love for yourself. And I think that that's one of the most important things when I'm working with, African American women, Black women, when they're struggling with, these type of issues, is to understand their worth, their value within themselves, while also processing, issues concerning their father, understanding why. I'm big on I'm big on the why. I'm big on, well, how did we become this way? How did we start thinking this way? Because when we were born, we were a clean slate. We were a baby, just yelling and hollering, and something happened in our environment of what we saw or whatever that occurred that caused us to think this way, to be this way. And so my biggest thing is to make sure we understand the why, because you get a better understanding, and a better idea of what's going on in your mind and why. And so that way you are more aware and you can monitor more, like, okay, well, I was thinking this. Why was I thinking like this? Why am I calling him, and he said he's gonna call me at 7 o'clock, and I'm calling him at 7:02. Why am I doing that? Oh, because I think he's cheating. Well, why do you think he's cheating? Because I think all men cheat. Why do you think all men cheat? Because my dad used to like chronically cheat on my mother, and my mother would tell me all men are gonna cheat. Boom. So now you're saying because your father did it and your mom said that all men are going to do that, but what you're doing is setting yourself up for failure. So it's kind of like, I like Harry Potter, don't laugh at me, but it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like you're fulfilling this prophecy, like all men are going to cheat. So what you're going to do is you're going to drive him, or in your mind you're going to drive him to cheat because you already feel like he's going to cheat. But if you attack those preconceived notions or beliefs that you have, and you rearrange them, because you're taking your childhood beliefs and preconceived notions from your father or your mother or both, and taking them into an adulthood. And then as an adult, you need to rearrange those for your own self, not from what you saw growing up.
Okay, so let me ask, we always hear about forgiveness and how
hmm
big a role does that play in moving on from, these daddy issues? I mean, are you not only forgiving your father, are you forgiving yourself? Or again, how does a woman move past that so that they don't continue to, blame themselves, blame their fathers? Because you hold on to that negativity, then it could lead to all other types of problems,
Yeah.
anxiety, physical problems, things of that nature. So
hmm
how big a role does, forgiveness play?
I'm the type of therapist, and this is not just with daddy issues. This can be trauma related. If someone hurt you physically, emotionally, however. I'm the type of therapist, I don't urge you and tell you you need to forgive to process and heal, because that's for you. If you want to forgive that person, then we'll work on that. But if you don't want to forgive them, I'm not going to dare say that you should forgive someone who hurt you. I will tell you the benefits. I will tell you the benefits of why forgiving, why people forgive. And you're not forgiving them, you're forgiving them so that you can heal and move forward. But I think one of the biggest things is basically being able to approach it. Like being able to approach it. So for me, little self disclosure, I knew my father was cheating on my mother. And I knew this since I was 12 years old. And when I became 18 and I got a divorce, for my healing, I confronted him. Did it end well? No. But I confronted him because I thought it would, like, I had been holding it in for so long. Now, confrontation doesn't have to always be that. It can be putting it in a letter and confronting this person, your father, who has has been doing these things or whatever could have been going on. I think being able to basically get it out, externalize it, because it's something you've been internalizing for a long time. And then after we do that, let's work on the healing, the continuation of the healing, and let's see if we want to move forward with forgiveness. I'm not sitting here saying like you have to forgive, but if that's something you want to work on, I'm going to tell you the benefits of it. But I'm never ever, for me, going to tell a client you need to forgive to move on, because you might feel like this person doesn't deserve your forgiveness. And at the end of the day, I'm not the person as your therapist. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just the helper. I'm just the guide to help guide you get to the best version of yourself of where you want to be. So that's kind of how I personally feel about forgiveness. I'm not going to dare say that to a client, like you should forgive this person for hurting you.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing that personal anecdote about um, your buster ass father. But anyway, because I'm all for women and
Let
keeping them
me
safe. So,
let me just
hey man, look, we keeping it real. I'm just gonna
agree,
say,
agree.
you
It
know,
is what it is.
I look at Ashley like she's family.
I got a question because Gene stepped in on forgiveness, and I do like looking at that, but I think I'm like a man of action, so I'm just thinking action words, verbs. So just nothing big, but I was back to my thing, like we're a team, black men and black women. So for us to
Mhm.
help, because it seems like this is an issue on both sides. Of course, there's a men's mental health crisis, but
Mm.
we're talking about women right now. So not just for us at the table, but for listeners, if you could give us men, right, some action words to just help, like whether it's listen, I don't know, because I'm a problem solver, and I'll try to give a woman a problem, and they just want somebody to listen. So I'm working on that. So I know listening is one of, but what are some other
Yeah,
action words to kind of,
that's good because I'm that way too. I
Yeah,
want to jump in and solve it, and
I'll fix it right now.
I've been told that, like, but you're not hearing what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You're just trying to fix the problem,
but sometimes we just gotta listen,
and I'm like,
and that's hard.
yeah. So that's a good question.
Help us,
Yeah.
please.
Hmm. I don't know if it's like a specific word, maybe some phrases or some questions. What do you need from me? What do you need from me right now in this moment? How can I help you? Is this how you need to be helped? And so why I say is this how you need to be helped? Because a lot of times what I see just in therapy, someone would say, well, I am helping, but it's not how they need to be helped. And we only help the way that we know how to be helped. So if you ask somebody, how can I help you? How do you need me to help you? I think that that's different, because then that person can kind of they can show you how they need to be helped. Like, hey, I need this from you. I need this from you. I need this. And so I look at it the same way I look at just your support system. So I always tell my clients, when it comes to their support system, you pick your support system and you tell your support system how you need to be helped, because at the end of the day, they don't know what you need from them. So you have to direct them. You have to tell them what you need and how you need to be helped, So with me, I like to vent. I like to just vent and verbalize it, and just like go crazy, like, oh, this is happening, this is happening. And then that's it. I just need you to listen to me and let me vent, and I'll come up with the rest on my own. I don't necessarily, need a lecture or anything like that. But other people are different. So
No interjecting, just
He
listening.
said, oops.
Got it. Okay.
So
Good to know.
that's just me. So basically, like, kind of those questions, but also just how can I help you? What do you need from me in this moment? Not just what do you need from me, but what do you need from me in this moment? I also think kind of paying attention to social cues of a woman, like paying attention to her social cues, her nonverbal reactions. So she may say she's okay, but is she standoffish?
I don't
Is
get
she
that
rolling
one.
her
No,
eyes?
we
Is she
can't.
That's
crying?
black
Is her
women in
body
general.
stiff?
Yeah.
That's
We'll
every day.
we'll never get that down,
But
Yeah, I don't think we
Ashley.
can fix
So
that one.
yeah, okay.
you asked, I'm telling you.
Yeah, but
Like, really paying attention. And maybe because I'm a therapist and I do this on a daily basis, I pay attention to the body and what is a person saying, but worse, what more than anything, what is their body saying? What are their eyes? I'm paying attention to their neck. I'm paying attention to if they're shaking their knee. I'm paying attention if they're tapping a pen. I'm paying attention to all of this. And I think that that's good. Like, it's small things. Like, you can tell so much about a person. Like, go to a doctor's office and just sit there. Unfortunately, like, you'll see so many different expressions from people, and you can realize, like, this person's anxious, this person's a little nervous, this person's scared, this person's kind of blanked.
you so mean.
Well,
This man sitting in here
He
looking
said,
at people.
I'm just
an
observing.
example.
That's a tough example.
Eugene.
Go to a
I'm
basketball
giving an
game when the team
example.
losing.
Get your
Yeah. Okay.
creepy
Yeah.
ass
Go to.
out of
Oh, yes. That's great. Go to, like, oh God, Georgia. But, like, go to a basketball game. Go to a Pistons game and see. So yeah.
Well, I can tell you them nonverbal cues. Well, they actually a little bit better this season. So we'll see.
Yeah, but you still gonna those
Yeah,
bad nights.
yeah.
So
Well, Brandon, Carl, y'all got any final words for Mrs. Ashley Smith?
I think it's been helpful. I know we can't solve all the problems in this hour that we have, but
we got a good dent.
I think we because I think that the biggest thing is for us as men, we need our black women. Black men need our black women.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's a lot of difficulties in us recognizing what you're saying. What do we need, or what black women need in that moment? You know, a lot of things have been lately in social media, like we saying the soft girl era. You know, a lot of times now, it's not even just now, but you know, men want to just buy women things and think that's going to make them happy, and you know, but then when they have their own careers and they're able to, you know, maybe outspend the man, then it's like, well, what do I do? What do you need me for at this point? But I think that a lot of that is still communication and finding out what the woman needs in that point, whether it might not be financial, but it could be very much emotional support. And we as men have to get to that point where we can become vulnerable and provide that support when needed and where needed. So,
And B?
I think it's been an insightful chat. You know, I think I've picked up a little something I can learn today, because I used to be, I'm the problem solver, and like as you're saying, sometimes I want, you know, you guys just want to vent, and I'm like, well, you've been venting for 5 minutes, let's fix the problem. But sometimes that's what's needed. So I'm gonna going forward start trying to work on listening a little bit before I put on my Bob the Builder hat. So I took something from today. So I'm good. I learned something.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I think too that as always, this has been, you know, a very interesting topic. And family, we continue to say we're here to help. You know, that's why we're all blessed to have subject matter experts. Ashley, thank you so much for being here with us. And
You're welcome.
we're gonna tap you again, probably sooner than later. But we appreciate you, you know, taking the time out of your busy schedule. And fam, we're gonna go ahead and put Ashley's information on the website when we release this show. So, you know, you guys can reach out if you got questions. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. And remember to stay prayerful, stay positive, stay patient, stay peaceful. See you next time.